Hi, everyone. All right, it's 2:30. We're going to get started. Welcome to Grow Membership and Increase Ad Revenue with 5 Print Strategies. We are so happy that you have joined us here today. I'm going to start with some quick, just nuts and bolts. Specifically, that what we're going to do is present for 20 minutes and then do a Q&A for 10 minutes. And I think that we may very well have a nice robust Q&A here today. So I'm going to try really hard to stick to the 20-10 rule. Now, at the 10-minute Q&A, we're going to let people in on video, but we're at we max out at 8 people. So if you have questions and you're not on video during the Q&A, please enter them in the chat and we'll get to them. All right, so I want to introduce myself. My name is Beth Renaud and I'm the marketing director here at Lane Press. And this is Dana.
Hello.
Dana is the VP of operations here. Dana is the knower of all things print production. And she has been the estimating and operating guru here at Lane Press for 23 years. So she is just going to be a wealth of knowledge to answer any questions. I'm going to run through the presentation and then Dana's going to field questions during the Q&A. So what are we here to talk about today? We want to talk to you about ways to grow your membership and increase your ad revenue by utilizing strategies that you can do in print. You know, print is your print magazine is a powerful emissary for your organization, as you well know. It's a direct line of communication to your valued members. The question is, are you utilizing it to its full potential? In this session, we're going to discuss 5 simple and affordable print finishing techniques that you can use to, like I said, grow membership and increase ad revenue. We're going to publish specific examples of things that our customers have done, what their feedback is, what their results were, some baseline pricing expectations. And then we're gonna, like I said, be available for questions. I'm willing to set a wager that Dana can answer any question that you come up with. So try to stump her. We'll see what happens. The first technique that we're going to talk about is the belly band. The belly band is, and I'm going to show you some pictures in a second, an extra span of paper wrapped around the outside of a magazine. It can be used for membership renewal and membership promotion. It can be used as an extra ad space above and beyond the space available within your magazine. You can use it as an organization to promote an upcoming event or to draw attention to content within your magazine. I also just want to mention this really interesting strategy that was used recently during COVID. And university that we work with had produced their whole spring magazine in 2020, and then COVID hit, and they didn't want to send their finished magazine out with feeling that they were being tone deaf. So the president wrote a letter that was put on the belly band that was wrapped around the outside of the magazine. So it's a way to potentially add messaging after your magazine is done. So here is an example of using a belly band to drive membership. This is NALA, the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. And they use this belly band to talk to their readership about the benefits of renewing and being a part of their organization. This is what the belly band looked like. This is an actual picture of the front and the back. It's attached together in the back with a glue strip. And NALA talked to us about why they did this and how it went. So their goal was to remind members of all the benefits they received during the year and thus drive them to renew. They said, why did we do this? Well, because we specifically targeted our magazine mailing for this effort because of its high member demand and physical presence. Their magazine makes it to their members. The result is they had a 5% increase in online dues payments. And the savings of staff time alone, they said, paid for the campaign. So let's talk a little bit about, I need to keep up my notes with my slides here. Hold on a second. All right, so before we talk about cost, I want to show you just another example of the use of a belly band, and that would be for advertising. And this magazine is called Risk Management. It's the Risk and Insurance Management Society. And the ad, which you can see is the blue part, this is a digital picture, so it's not quite as 3D as the image you saw before. The ad is for the Hartford, which is a financial services group. The thing about this is that in terms of ad revenue, this adds an additional ad space or real estate for advertising, I should say, that's not already part of your magazine. And it's so front and center. What Risk had to say about this is, again, to increase ad revenue with additional placement. It created, they said, this high value ad space right in the forefront. Risk says that they can increase ad revenue for one issue up to 10% using that as ad space, and that the cost to produce is roughly equivalent for them to the cost of producing a cover with one spot color and a spot varnish. And what they say for them is that they more than cover the cost with revenue from the ad. So now let's talk a little bit about the cost to produce a belly band. And I'm moving kind of quickly because we have these 5 awesome things we want to talk about. So we're going to kind of move swiftly along. Let's assume that your magazine is 35,000 copies. The manufacturing cost for a belly band is similar to a 4-page cover with coating on about 100-pound stock. So let's say that for this number of copies and that particular stock is $3,500. And then just to give you a sense, you can decrease that cost a little bit by 5% if you use an 80-pound stock, and even more by about 8% if you use a 70-pound stock. So again, that's just to give you a sense of the cost of the belly band itself. And then you want to look at what other associated costs there might be. So you might ballpark that it's about $90 per 1,000 copies to apply the belly band and then to address the issues. Because as you think about these extra cool things you can do, sometimes it changes processes that might otherwise be, for example, inline to become offline process. So sometimes you have sort of the cost to do the thing, but then the cost to change the way it's produced. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how much it might cost for your magazine to try doing a belly band. All right, we're moving right along. The next one we're going to talk about is a false cover. And if that's jargony for some of you, and many of you may be very familiar with it, that is when you put an additional cover, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in a second, but an additional cover element on top of your magazine. It can be partial, it can be full. We will look at a couple of examples. Oh, and that reminds me that I had things to hold up that I didn't hold up, so we'll come back to those. But for the false cover, it really is helpful to see the 3D. Okay, let's just pause here. Why would you use a false cover? Again, to promote subscription and membership renewals. You can absolutely use it for additional ad space. You can use it for fundraising, to draw attention to content inside the magazine. You could use it to protect your cover if you're doing something fancy on the cover, like a foil stamping or something. All right, and then generally, well, yeah, I'm going to tell you, we'll come back to this part in a second. I want to show you an example of using a false cover for driving membership renewals. And this is on a Saddle Stitch magazine, a full 4-page, what we call a 4-page false cover. So it's an entire complete extra cover, okay? This particular organization, which is the Union of Concerned Scientists, uses this to drive membership renewals. So whereas NALA might have sent that membership promotion to belly band to all of their list, UCS would send this particular, hey, this is your last issue, it's time for you to renew, to the portion of their list that is expiring. And I want to point out that they are doing a 2-color, I hope everybody can see this, a 2-color version of their cover art with a 4-color version of their actual cover underneath, which is I think a really cool way to do it. All right. Now, one of the benefits of using this 4-page version, because you get so much real estate, is you have space to do things. So inside their front cover, they and I know you guys probably can't see this great, but that left side is all about where your money goes info. So what is the organization doing with the money that you are providing through your membership dues? Inside the back cover, which is on the right there, is their membership renewal form. Now, the way these guys do it, there's more. And actually, I'm just showing you there the full color cover, because I think, again, it's interesting that they do 2-color and then 4. Inside the magazine is an envelope. And the thing about the envelope, and we're going to talk more about envelopes in a minute, is they utilize this space for multiple purposes as well. They used it to offer, sign up here to receive emails and other print mailings for us. They said, hey, are you interested in learning more about X, Y, or Z, to get information from their readers? They used it to say, hey, do you want to join this network within our organization? And they also said, hey, do you want to provide an additional donation? So what UCS is doing is utilizing these 2 components to achieve multiple things. What I wanted to say is that earlier is that you could do a 4-page false cover on a saddle stitch book, which this is, and then on a perfect bound book, you might instead do a 2-page, which is basically a piece of paper attached to the front of your magazine. Now, this may not be a great example because they did a very unconventional cover on this, so this doesn't look like your normal regular magazine cover, but this is one piece of paper tipped on to the front of a magazine, and that you would do on a perfect bound. It's 2 pages. Okay, so let's go back to UCS and what their feedback is on why they did their false cover. They wanted to notify members of their expiring membership. They wanted to inspire renewals. And as we mentioned, they had these secondary goals about donation, fundraising, about promotion of their organization, about building their lists. And I think I covered this about the 2-color versus 4-color that I think is so cool, but also that they had plenty of space to utilize. Now, the results. Over 1 year, UCS received 250 to 300 gifts, totaling about $40,000 in revenue. It cost them about $7,800 to produce the wrap. Now, keep in mind, they have specific specs, right? So they have a certain number of magazines they produce, certain trim size and paper. So that's not a number for everyone, but it was their number. And that the revenue from one issue covered the entire year's budget to produce their envelope. So that's them, kind of talking about, hey, we brought in more than it cost, but also, it covered our whole year of envelopes, which is a good way for them to think about the cost. Now, in terms of cost, again, we're going to assume 35,000 copies. The production cost is similar to, for a 4-page false cover, is similar to a 4-page regular cover. You would decrease that by about 35% if you did the 2-page on the Perfect Bound magazine. And then there's bind-in cost. So you would ballpark that at about $175. For a 2-page, that would increase by 400% because you would have to tip it versus binding it. And 250% to increase for ad addressing, which again becomes an offline process. Now, again, I'm going to move along pretty quickly, but if you guys have questions about pricing, we can get to that in the Q&A. All right, now we did cover this a little bit, but the next one we want to talk about is the envelope. The uses of putting an envelope, I think, are so great for a nonprofit You can use them for subscription and membership renewal payments, for fundraising, for survey results. And as we just touched on, you can leverage it by multi-purposing it, right? So in this case, now we're going to talk about Friends of Animals, which is an organization that works on animal advocacy, and they have a quarterly publication called Action Line. And I really love the way that they do their envelope. They do it, you can see these two different examples, blue, yellow. They do a different color on their envelope every single issue, which I think is really smart. And they always do this envelope because it really catches eyes. And if you don't mind me flipping back and forth, you can also see how big it is in the scope of the page there. It's quite large. They also include a list of where your money goes, how they utilize your membership and donation funds. And then they collect email addresses to build their email list. They also include, I think, just worth noting, they include an invitation to bequest to the organization by will, and then they include all of that important 501c3 information. This is what Friends of Animals had to say. They started using an envelope in 1988 to encourage giving. And then they more recently added the appeal to join email list. Their reasoning for this method is, they say, it's contextual. They say that they produce all of this information about protecting animals that in context, when people are reading it, they are inspired to give in that moment. So the envelope is right there. In terms of results, they said, in addition to 2 annual appeal letters, envelopes are their main source of donations, and they have substantially increased their email list. In terms of costs, they say it brings in more than it costs, and it utilizes 1 production spend for 2 purposes. So let's look at cost. Assuming 35,000 copies, the manufacturing cost for a 2-color envelope, a number 9 coupon, or a number 9 converted, and we can talk about those, is $3,000 roughly, again, for that number of copies. You can decrease that by about 8% if you do 1 color. You would increase it by 96% if you did a number 9 coupon in 4-color, and you'd increase it by 25% if you did a number 9 converted in 4-color. I did want to hold this up. This is their magazine, and this is the size and look of their envelope in the scope of it. And then this is if you don't know the language, this is a coupon. And this is in a saddle stitch book. This is the coupon where coupon type envelope where it floats between signatures. So that is a coupon versus what we saw a second ago, which was the converted. All right. Now, cost to bind it into the magazine, $175. You'd have to increase that by about 250% to float it between the stitches, like I just showed you. And then 400% increase to tip the envelope to the signature, which is the Friends of Animals version. All right, people, we're moving right along. I hope I'm not talking too fast. We have 2 more to cover, and we're running out of time.
Yes.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. All right, insert. We're going to talk about inserts real quick. A great way for advertising space, okay? So this is Convene Magazine, the Professional Convention Management Association. They do a lot of inserts, okay? This is an example, this first one here, of a 12-page insert, okay? I'm going to move along here. That's what it looks like on screen. It's on heavier paper than the text stock. It's tipped in with a glue strip, so I don't know if you can see, but it's smaller than the trim size of the magazine, and it's tipped to this page. And this is one of the spreads on the inside, moving along really quick. In the same issue of the magazine, they have a second insert. In this case is I believe it's a 4-page, again, tipped in with a glue strip and smaller than the size the stock on that one is not quite as heavy. It's more like the text stock in the magazine. And that's what it looks like on the back. The goal is to provide advertisers with a way to stand out and a platform for content. Plus, so, you know, an organization could produce one of these, right, for about the same cost that they do it with Convene, but they wouldn't get that 36,000 person distribution that they get by doing it and putting it in Convene. Convene custom publishes these. They limit 5 to an issue, so they could have an issue with 5 of these in it. Inserts can be 2 to 16 pages. It's a great revenue opportunity for them as they charge per side of page, and the revenue more than covers the cost to produce. Let's talk about amounts here. For roughly 35,000 copies, if an advertiser creates it and supplies to you, there's no production cost for you. The cost to bind in a 2 or 4 page insert is $175. You increase that 400% to tip it in versus binding it in. If you guys have questions about that, we can cover that. 1,300% increase to polybag versus bind in. And I'm sure you're all familiar with polybags, but if you did something as more of a ride along where it was an insert not connected to the magazine, then you would have to do a polybag to keep it all together. All right, we're moving along.
One more.
Convene. Convene does so many cool things. So, and I think that Michelle might be on with us here today. We're going to talk about creative folds. There are a lot of creative folds you can do, but look at that beautiful cover. Isn't that so pretty? And it goes so nicely with the colors of the PowerPoint. This is the creative fold, right? So this is called a French door cover. So this is the cover of the magazine. This is the ad inside, okay? So again, this provides additional, I need to catch up with myself here, additional ad space, right? Note that I took this picture from their digital version of their magazine where they added even more value by putting a video on it, which, you know, they couldn't do in print. Why do this? It creates interest and intrigue and enables an advertiser to stand out. It creates that additional ad space. The folds, and Convene does a lot of these, enables Convene to utilize the cover real estate for advertising without obscuring the Convene brand, because you can look at it and you see the masthead and you see everything about it, and it's only until you open it that you see the advertiser. For these guys, it brings in 4 times more revenue than a one-page ad, and the revenue more than covers the cost to produce. Let's talk about costs real quick. Manufacturing costs for a standard 4-page cover is about $1,600 for 35,000 copies. The manufacturing cost for a French door cover is about 60 to 70% more. And then addressing mail copies will increase that 4 times compared to inline inkjetting due to the required polybag, because you do need to polybag when you do something cool like this. All right, so Julia, I think, is there with us. She's our tech support person, and I can say that we're not terribly far behind. We have 7 minutes for Q&A, and I may need her help letting people in. So if you guys have questions, you know, click the little thing that says join by video. We would love to have you join by video to ask your questions or just to chat with us. And you also can absolutely enter a question into the chat box. And while we're waiting, I'm going to kick it to Dana, who has like a couple of anticipated questions of things that she thinks people might want to ask. But I'm also seeing Katie popped in. Katie, do you have a question?
Well, I do. So it's kind of in line with some of the additional stuff. One of my clients did something really cool this issue. We actually did a UV grit coat to the cover. And it was to create like the whole theme of the issue. And it's actually one of your clients too. The whole theme of the issue is sort of emotion and how you feel about some things. And so it was a cool effect to add like a tactile
feel to it, sure.
Sense to the cover itself. And so I know that's not a question, but my question is, in addition to some of these things, are you seeing other clients of yours do things like that?
Cover coatings are the easiest way to add items to your cover for the least amount of expense. And, the hidden thing for it is without increasing postage costs. All these lovely things that we've shown you here will add to the weight of the magazine, and depending upon your postal class could add postage costs. But doing a grit UV or spot UV, I mean, we've done some funky covers before where it looks like a starburst of just this UV coating kind of going over an image, or having part of the page dull and part of it just pop for color. And those are nice effects to do that don't, they increase the cost of your cover, probably, let's say $500 or $600, but there's no postal implication. So they're really a neat way to do that.
Cool. Thanks, Katie, for that question. One person commented in the chat that their organization has done a bunch of these through the years, and that the most popular for advertiser remains the inserts. He says, great bang for the buck. So that's just helpful information for people who have tried this. Mike is asking, how does a Post-it compare to a belly band in terms of pricing?
So a Post-it compared to a belly band would probably run around 40 to 50% of the cost for production. The advantage to a Post-it note, because that's done with an adhesive that makes the whole note stick to like the outside of a cover. In most cases, most printers can apply that sticker in as an inline process, so you can save some costs by not having to do the offline mailing. Convene actually has done that quite a few times, and we've actually had we print some alumni magazines, and they've done the sticker to draw attention to something inside or an event that they've had.
I did this was going to be our bonus thing. Convene also often does a sticker. So if you can see that, it's just the sticker right in the corner of their cover. We got another question coming in. As we get them, I'm going to try to roll through them while we still have some time. Which of these 5 options is available for magazines that are co-mailed?
You can do the envelope in most cases, as long as you can do the false cover. The French door could go co-mail, but I'm not sure your savings would be as much as you would like, because the co-mail pools with polybagging usually aren't as large. And the inserts, those all can co-mail also.
And belly band.
And belly band. I don't know if we've ever done the belly band for co-mail.
Any regulations that would prohibit it?
Only if there's a regulation for the co-mail facility. I don't see why it couldn't go, but I don't believe we've ever had anybody utilize co-mail for belly band.
Okay, cool. I'm going to try to fit a couple more questions in. Do advertisers want proof that readers saw this? So many now want sales leads. Can you address that in any way?
I think the only way to know if your advertisers or people are seeing it is a lot of them, and I think that's why Action Line does a different color. They know what issue that their donations are coming back to and referring to. And in some cases for envelopes and, the renewals, they'll put a code, so they'll know that code is associated with what issue, so they know when they're getting information back which one it's associated with.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel bad that we missed 3 minutes of Q&A, because Dana has so much knowledge. I just want to say that we are here for questions. And so there on the last slide here is my email address, and also sales@lanepress.com. If you forget what mine is and it's easy to remember that one, those all come to me as well. And I would be more than happy to funnel any of your questions to Dana. And also we have excellent sales rep. Robin is here on the call with us, who can also get answers to any of your questions. So if you have a question, you didn't get to ask it, you think it's big or small, please we'll answer it. We can also provide you with samples. I have a whole stack of samples of these things. So if you want to see something, you know, tactilely, just drop me an email and I'll send it into the mail to you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to stop on time so you can get on to the next thing. And we really appreciate your time. We hope you found this useful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.